TV.
Welcome to Uxbridge Scugog Life. So I have been enjoying the warmer days, going for trail walks, I live in the trail capital of Canada, so I have been definitely on the trails. If you haven't been hitting the trails in Uxbridge, I definitely recommend it. We have an exciting show today. We are talking to Silvina Pica of Mercedes-Benz Durham. And we have some good topics here. We're talking about how to decide whether you go hybrid, electric, or gas. And then we're also talking about that debate as to whether you lease versus finance. So lots to talk about. Make sure you keep on watching. We'll be back with more on Uxbridge Scugog Life.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Next episode on Meet the Band with the BMD, Solitary Man Tribute to Neil Diamond with Will Chalmers.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. I have Silvina Pica, who is a sales consultant for Mercedes-Benz Durham, and we are talking about hybrid versus electric versus gas. And make sure you keep on watching, because a little bit later on in the show, we're going to be talking about how do you decide whether you should lease or whether you should finance to own. So, Silvina, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is a very hot topic, electric versus hybrid versus gas. Mm-hmm. I understand there is a big push for going electric.
Yes.
Because, okay, I want you to make sure that I'm getting these numbers right.
No
you can fill in the blank.
Okay.
So by 2035, we are supposed to be going to zero emissions.
Vehicle, 100%. Zero emission vehicles.
And 20% by 2026?
Correct.
And
60% by 2030.
2030.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that's feasible?
It's definitely scary, and in the sense of just unnerving. People's concerns are, hey, it's a great commitment for Canada to make. The question is, can we get there? Do we have the proper support? Do we have the proper infrastructure? And I mean, the whole premise behind the zero emission vehicle mandate by 2035 is that there won't be any internal combustion engines being sold. It doesn't mean that the cars that already exist will cease to exist. They're still going to be on the road and still being driven. The problem is we just won't be able to sell any more emission vehicles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I know some people are scared about buying electric vehicles because it's been in the news of people's houses catching on fire from what has been going on there and what has been done to have this resolved.
So, I mean, I think we haven't heard of a lot of situations. And, what I can touch on is just the safety aspect. The issue with things going wrong is because you're not following process. Okay. So, there's a real importance of proper charge. having a proper charger installed by a certified electrician or a company that does these types of installs, making sure that the wiring is done properly. And when you are charging your vehicle, follow the rules of that manufacturer. You don't use adapters, you don't use extension cords. You know, you want to follow sort of electric safety. So a lot of times, you know, things are not perhaps being adhered to, and accidents happen. Now, in the event of an accident, you know, a lot of people have a concern with what happens if I get into a car crash with my electric vehicle. Again, I can speak for Mercedes-Benz. Our batteries are 100% sealed, so the battery is protected in the event that anything should happen. Within milliseconds, the electric component shuts down completely. So really, at that point, you're just worried about body damage and nothing on the electric component. So, you know, that puts people's minds to ease as well.
Yeah. So a lot of people are considering electric because of the decreased costs in, you know, gas versus electricity. They're going to save a lot of money there. And also decreasing maybe their carbon footprint. I have also heard that, well, in actuality, when you have to get rid of the battery, you're increasing the carbon footprint. So can you give us a little
And that's
more?
Again, another myth. You know, for Mercedes-Benz, our batteries are 100% recyclable. So a lot of people aren't aware. They think that you're disposing of these lithium-ion batteries, and like you said, you're adding to the carbon footprint as opposed to reducing it, and that's not the case. So, you know, again, there are a lot of myths around electric, and, you know, the consumer that has made the switch, and those that are still questioning it have a lot of concerns. You know, one of the main concerns would be range anxiety. You know, the first thing is...
I've never heard this is a new anxiety.
For sure.
And the range anxiety is, how long can I drive for before I'm like done?
The first thing is, what's the range? You know, the question prior to internal combustion engines would always be like, what's the fuel mileage? Well, now it's like, what's the range? How far can I go?
Right. And will I be able to charge somewhere?
For sure. And you know what? The infrastructure is there. We have access to substantial amounts of chargers out there. And the reality is, for the average person, 95% of the time you're charging at home. You're coming home and you're plugging in your car just like you would your cell phone. So there really isn't any difference. Now, for the person that's doing a lot more mileage, you know, you can set the charging percentage on the vehicle all the way up to 100% to maximize on the range of the vehicle. And the reality is that if you're going on a really long trip, you're going to have to stop for a bathroom break or check your emails or have a drink or have something to eat. And
so
in
if
that
you
time,
drive to Florida, I'm so sorry, I feel like
interrupting.
If you're driving to Florida, which would be a very long trek, you would be stopping. How long does it take to even fully charge?
Really, it depends on the car. It depends on the power that it could receive. It also depends on the charger that you find. So there are different levels of charging. A level 3 charger is usually considered what is a supercharger, so it's a quick charge. And, you know, the car can actually find a fantastic charge, a more substantial charge, depending on whether or not there are vehicles that are being charged at that same location. You know, if you've got a spot that's got 6 different chargers and 3 cars are being charged, then obviously you're sharing that power. But if you're going somewhere where perhaps there's only 1 or 2, then you can take advantage of a more powerful output and charge your car quicker.
Okay.
On average, I would say, I mean, it could be anywhere between 20 minutes and an hour.
Okay, good to know. There was so much we didn't cover. Okay, thank you so much for being on the show, Silvina. We need to have her on again. We'll be back with more on Uxbridge Scugog Life.
Johnny wanted to go back home. It was 1,000 kilometers away. They forced him to go to the Indian residential school. More than 150,000 of us children had to go. They wanted to change us.
Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name.
Hallowed be your name.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done.
Thy will be done.
kill the Indian and the child. It's been called cultural genocide. I survived residential school. My brother Johnny did not.
Chani Wenjack was one of thousands of children who died due to Canada's residential school system. More than 80,000 survivors and their families still live with its legacy today.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. I have Silvina Pica from Mercedes-Benz Durham. She's a sales consultant. And we have been talking about hybrid versus electric versus gas. We needed to extend the show because there was so much more we needed to talk about. For sure. So we were talking about range anxiety. So if someone is in the debate, do I go electric? Do I just get another gas vehicle, or do I go hybrid? Maybe hybrid
For sure.
would be the best way to ease your way into electric.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is a nice and sort of slow transition into the EV world by going hybrid. In most cases, you're going to be able to run X amount of kilometers on sole electric power. Let's say, for example, 100 kilometers, and then the rest obviously will kick in using fuel. Now, there's benefits for those individuals, because if you've got somebody that perhaps maybe has like a 30, 40 kilometer commute, then they can technically run their full day commute on full electric. And again, you know, just like you would plug in your cell phone when you get home, you would plug in your car. And those moments where you're dipping into the fuel is when you are going on longer trips, but at least you don't have that anxiety, that range anxiety of, will I make it? Do I have to stop and charge? In this case, you've got the electrical component that takes over a certain amount of kilometers, and then you're dipping into your fuel. So it's definitely a nice transition into the electric world, perhaps for those individuals that haven't decided to make the full switch to electric. Once they realize how easy it is just to plug in your car, it's a lot easier for them to go full electric after that.
Now, something else that I think I would get anxiety over of having a full electric is I was involved with the tornado that hit Uxbridge, not this past May, the May before, and we were without power for a long time.
For sure.
And so if I had a full electric vehicle, just like I didn't have a generator, I was having to rely on neighbors. Can I charge my cell phone to be able to communicate with my family?
Yeah.
So for me, that would be scary, because we can have natural disasters where then we don't have electricity. But is there something that I'm not thinking about?
Well, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I go back to the blackout, you know, the blackout forever ago that we all experienced.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have a full tank of gas, and I couldn't get fuel, and it was 4 days. Now, mind you, because everything...
You need electricity to even get fuel from the pumps, too.
Exactly.
Okay.
So... Again, going back to my point of the majority of the charging you're going to do at home, very seldom will you ever be in a situation where your car is completely drained. You know, for the average person, again, even if your commute is 100K, so if you're going into the city and you're driving 100 kilometers one way and 100 kilometers back, on a 400 kilometer range vehicle, you're still at half. You know, if you were ever in that situation. And again, like we mentioned, you know, fuel pumps, they still need electricity in order to be able to get fuel.
Right.
So taking me back to those blackout days, I didn't go anywhere until things were restored.
Okay, I want to make sure I understand the way the hybrid works as well. Is it true, or maybe only with some vehicles, but is it true that when you're using the gas component, it is actually charging the electric component?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. It's called regenerative power. So basically,
Okay.
depending on how you're driving, and this is kind of a cool feature that you actually end up training yourself on how to accelerate and how to ease off the pedal in order to regenerate the power.
Oh,
so
there's
it's
a finesse, there's an art, a science to it.
There is a little bit
Okay.
of a science to it, and definitely it doesn't take very much to master and get a feel for how you can adjust your foot to benefit that regeneration.
My dad's an engineer. I could see him just loving getting really good at it. You know how much power I generated today?
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
For sure.
You know, for now, if you were to buy a gas vehicle, the initial output is going to be, tell me if I'm wrong, cheaper than an electric. However, you're automatically going to be saving money right away with the gas, not having to buy gas, right?
Yeah, a lot of, I mean, yes, the reality is that in most cases, the electric vehicles are more expensive than gasoline engines. Now, there are incentives. In some provinces, you can receive government
Ontario?
Not quite.
We have to move to New Brunswick. I just threw that province out there. Okay.
But there are manufacturers that have made up for that. So, you know, they incentivize the consumer with some sort of incentive, some sort of electric incentive saying, hey, purchase our vehicle or lease or finance our vehicle and we're going to give you this much. Now, as far as the savings is concerned, the amount of money that you're going to spend on charging a vehicle is about a quarter of what you'll spend on fuel.
So your payments, it's going to more than even out.
For sure.
Right?
And that's what I actually do with my clients is let's look at the whole picture. You're spending this much for this gasoline engine and you're spending this much on fuel and you're spending this much on insurance. Well, let's do that same math on the electric vehicle.
I would love to see those numbers.
Yeah.
See, I wish we could extend this even longer. Sylvina, it was so nice to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Make sure you visit a Mercedes-Benz Durham. They have a lot of knowledge there. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back with more on Uxbridge Scugog Life.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
There is so much to see and do in the Kawartha Lakes. Our communities have so much to offer all year long, and we invite you to join in on the fun as we highlight all the amazing people doing amazing things right in your neighborhood. Enjoy learning about the many charities, small businesses, cultural events, and seasonal activities. Watch Spotlight Kawartha right here on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. So I have Sylvina Pica, who is a sales consultant for Mercedes-Benz Durham. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So this question, I have often had this question, so I was really excited to get you on the show. How do you make the decision between leasing and buying?
It's a good question, and it actually comes up a lot more than you think.
Okay, I'm sure there's many factors that you need to take into place.
And also, some people haven't considered leasing perhaps in the past, or they've said, you know what, I've got to own this car, I'm going to finance it, or I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
But the switch has really changed quite a bit. A lot more clients are leasing. A lot more clients are putting cars in company names too. So that's a main factor when deciding to lease or finance, because accountants generally will actually push a client who has a company to lease a vehicle. Tax purposes, tax write-offs, benefits for the company, you know, certain things like that.
Okay.
Now on an individual scale, you know, leasing has its benefits where you're You're in a car every couple of years. You're returning a vehicle before the warranty expires. Generally, leases are like 3 or 4 years.
Right. I love that aspect.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have to worry. You're just doing your regular maintenance.
That's it.
That is it. So
That's
it's really peace of mind.
Yeah, and for us, we have prepaid packages for services. So, in the course of the lease, all you're worrying about is making your monthly payment. You're making your lease payments, your services are covered. At the end of 3-4 years, you're returning the car and getting into something new.
Nice.
Generally keeping your payment close to what you're paying if you'd like, or switching models. But the great thing is that you're always getting into something that's new technology, new models, new designs. It's got its benefits. Yeah.
Okay. So what are some other things that we should consider? So if you're going to be leasing, it will most likely be a higher monthly payment than not necessarily. I like the eyebrows going up.
Yeah.
Okay.
People's assumption is usually that
totally
a lease is
that.
higher, and it's not. It's actually cheaper or less expensive. You're only paying for a portion of the car. When you lease a vehicle, you've got what's called a residual. So it's a buyback amount. In normal cases, in some cases in the higher end brands, Mercedes-Benz, we have higher residuals because the value of our vehicles are higher when they get turned back in. The residual ends up being, let's say, 50%. So you're only paying for 50% of the car when you're leasing the vehicle, because that residual is what the buyback is at the end of the term.
Okay.
Now, great things about leases, closed-end leases in particular is what we do. You have a choice. If you love that car, you can buy it. You pay the residual plus tax, because that's what you haven't paid. Your monthly payments are only based on that 50% plus your taxes, and that's it. If you want to switch cars, then you walk away and you get into something else. You're not married to that vehicle, whereas on a finance, you're financially responsible for essentially a depreciating asset, right?
So I guess another factor would be what's your mileage? How many kilometers are you putting on your vehicle every year, right?
Yeah, and that's also another question that comes up. So, the norm is 12, 18, 24,000 is usually, your steps in mileage allowance on a lease. 24,000 generally tends to be the norm. I think the average person will drive anywhere between 20 and 25,000 kilometers per year. Now, we allow for prepaid mileage. So you can actually estimate what you think you're going to do and pay for those extra kilometers at a cheaper rate than if you returned the vehicle at the end of the lease and paid a penalty.
Okay,
and
so
for us, for Mercedes-Benz, the great thing is that when you are prepaying that extra mileage, if you don't use it, when you return the car, you are actually refunded.
Wow.
So it's a win-win situation because you don't have that anxiety that you're going to go over your mileage. You're already preparing yourself, and if you don't end up using that extra kilometer or two, then you get the money back.
That is amazing. I had no idea that was even a possibility. But that is unique to Mercedes and maybe to limited dealerships.
I'm really not sure who else offers that. I'm proud to say that we do. But you know what? And also the benefit between leasing and financing, and where you asked about monthly payments generally being lower, is interest rates are many times lower on a lease payment than they are on finance, especially with the rates the way that they are today. Bank rates are quite high. So depending on the brand, us again, Mercedes-Benz will offer incentivized rates on leases, lower rates in comparison to bank rates, some cases almost half the interest rate of what a finance rate would be, because we want people to, regenerate their business and come back to us and get another vehicle.
Beautiful. Who knew? Mercedes-Benz might be a lot more affordable than you thought. Thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
When I think about Mercedes, I think of quality and I think of luxury.
Yeah.
So have you go on the show to be able to talk about that was really exciting for me.
It's also history. We love to brag about being the oldest automotive manufacturer in the world, literally. So we're hitting 135 years. So we've got a good history to back us up.
Very cool. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more on Uxbridge Scugog Life.
After a night out with your friends, there's always options for getting home safely. You could call your BFF, your mom or dad, whoever you can count on for a safe ride home. You could call your favorite cab company or 1-888 taxi guy. Or you could use the Arrive Alive smartphone app to help you choose your ride. Be it a friend, transit, or taxi, getting home safely is app easy. Now available for iOS and Android devices. Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Van Bilson. My next guest is Matt Passafume, who together with his wife Stephanie own and operate Applewood Farm Winery, a very successful venture with a great history. We'll also find out the story behind the person right here on Rogers TV.
With Rogers TV, you can cheer on the home team from the comfort of your living room. We'll head to the rink, the field, the court, or the pitch, so you don't have to. Tune in and cheer on your local amateur athletes on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. So at the end of the show, I like to pull a card to offer inspiration for the week to assist you with whatever you're going through based on the current energy for the week. So I pulled a card from my Akashic Tarot deck, and this is the card that I pulled, which is the chess game. So you can see there's a chess board. One of the pawns is down. Can take that in for a moment there. So the message that wants to come through for this right now is that we might need to embrace that something within our life we need to let go, something that isn't working. And it might be something outside of us. It could be in relation to a job that you need to let go of. Maybe you're moving on from a certain position to a different position within the same company, changing companies. Maybe someone you've been working with, it's just there's been a shift there and that has no longer been actually working. That connection hasn't been working. Or it could be a more personal side of things. Something isn't working. It could also, what's also coming to mind for some of you, it might have to do with the way you are treating your body, your mind, your spirit. Maybe the sleep that you've been giving yourself, the way you've been eating, something about that needs to shift because it's no longer working. You're going to have to drop that and choose something that's going to be more in alignment with you. Sometimes we can't always compare ourselves to other people and the way that they do things because we are all such unique individuals. And if you know something has not been working for you, pay attention to your emotions and the different experiences that you've been having with the different relationships that you've been having, or even relationship. I know job is all about relationships, but also about how satisfying it is for you. So when we're paying attention to those emotions, it can help you to follow that gut, trust in yourself, trust in your intuition, because you may need to let things go. And that can be courage, but you might need to be strategic in the way, when you think about the chess game, it is about strategy and thinking about the future, thinking about moving forward, thinking 3 steps ahead or more, right? So taking all that into the consideration as you're moving forward. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week with more on Uxbridge Scugog Life.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Sports is life. It's clear cut. Everything's out in the open. There's nowhere to hide. I had to prove myself more than anyone else.
You must be so proud of your son. He's gonna go pro. The sky's the limit.
There's always a winner and a loser.